TV. We're broadcasting from, excuse me please, we're broadcasting from Capitol Heights, Maryland, and we're found at blackonblackunity.com. Then you click radio information. That's for the radio, disregard that. Ladies and gentlemen, we're here at 9185 Central Avenue in Capitol Heights, Maryland at E-Life Family Restaurant. You can come here, get delicious food and nutritious food all at the same time. And in a day like we're living today, we certainly want to build ourselves up and eat right, drink good, and have a great time with very down-to-earth people with great conversations. Speaking of great conversations, guess what? We have two exciting guests here today. And we want to introduce them right after we thank our sponsors. We want to say thank you to Dr. E. Faye Williams, and she has a radio show on WPFW Radio every Wednesday at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. We also want to say thank you to the Washington Informer newspaper, your link to the black community. And also, we want to say thank you to Chaos Gym and Athletic Training Center. They'll put your body in shape, your mind, your spirit. So we want to check them out in Northeast DC on Rhode Island Avenue Northeast. But it doesn't stop there. We have two exciting guests here today, and I'm excited about introducing them. All right, our first lady to my immediate left is Miss Liz Johnson. Now, Miss Liz Johnson is the housing chairperson for Prince George's County, Maryland, NAACP. And along beside her, we have our second guest, and she is a lead counsel. And her name is Kelly Baker, and she's the lead counsel for Strategic Housing Solutions. Is that for the NAACP, y'all talking?
Actually, it's a spinoff from the NAACP.
Yes, ma'am. So Kelly Baker, Miss Liz Johnson, we're here to talk about some solutions, but we have to introduce some of the challenges that are going on with housing in Prince George's County, Maryland. Is that right, ladies?
Absolutely.
Correct.
It's a very good topic.
Absolutely it is. And you're talking about two working pioneers. These soldiers have been on the ground. They have really been working to help families that have been misplaced or out of their homes for many reasons, dealing with legalities and dealing with sometimes and a lot of times misappropriate conduct. But I'm not going to try to tell you. I'm going to be like you and listen to find out what exactly is going on with Prince George's County, Maryland housing. So, Miss Liz, I'll start with you. How are you, ma'am?
I'm really good. Thanks for having us.
And thanks for being here. So we do have some challenges, some serious challenges with the home owners in Prince George's County, Maryland. I know all across the country, but we're focusing on Prince George's County, Maryland, where you ladies have been soldiering for years.
Literally for years. And we all started at the beginning of the housing crisis, which started in 2008. And nobody knew what was going on. No one knew what was happening. And so I went to work with the NAACP because we had to get to the bottom of why people were losing their homes. Along the way, I met Kelly, who was also laboring in the vineyard of stolen homes. And she has been working really tirelessly from the legal standpoint of what all is happening and why and how.
Let's go back to 2008 for younger people and people. Actually, this happened all over the country. But let's remind people of those crises. Those were some serious times in that day. I think not only was there a housing crisis, but there was a bank crisis, and the car dealers, I think, the manufacturers or something, they had all lost tremendous amounts of money, where President Obama came into office and kept the country from going into a serious depression. Maybe we hit the depression, but I'm here to learn. So describe the atmosphere, Kelly, in 2008.
Okay, well, before I can talk about 2008, we have to talk about 2002 to 2007.
All right.
And so during that time period, that was the housing boom and bubble, as it's now referred to. Being in the real estate industry as a real estate attorney and also as a real estate broker, I was able to see firsthand how loans changed from 2002 to 2007. For example, it started out that they had what's called the no-doc loan. You didn't have to document your income, but they would still verify that you were employed. Then it kind of evolved all the way to 2007, where the lenders weren't even making a phone call. So you would have someone as a minimum wage worker, and somehow the numbers could be twisted to say that they had 3 jobs, or I'm not really sure how these loan officers did it, but they would all of a sudden be 6-figure workers. And so they were able to get, the American dream. And so I think specifically to Prince George's County, we have now discovered through our research the reverse redlining strategy that a lot of lenders had. So, in the 50s and 60s, we had to deal with redlining where lenders would not lend to us. We wanted to buy homes and we were forced to kind of go to the local, almost check cashing, a really Jewish community to get our loans.
Specifically, you're speaking of black people.
Black people,
Go
yes.
ahead, ma'am.
Yes, and so with Prince George's County being a majority black county, it was specifically, along with other districts in the country and cities, but Prince George's County was a hotbed because here we are in the nation's capital. We are all educated, gainfully employed, strong job market. It was a prime location for lenders to target. Instead of saying we won't lend to you, we will, but we'll give you our worst loans that we have to offer. And so even though we are educated, we are deficient in our financial education. And so we trust our professionals, and when a loan officer says you can afford this house, it might sound crazy, well, a $500,000 house, but if they tell you your payment's $1,500 a month, why wouldn't you chase after the American dream? We just didn't know the strings that were attached. So we were targeted with loans that it looked like it was $1,500 a month, but it didn't last for long. And all of a sudden, that $1,500 a month turned to $2,000, turned to $2,500, turned to $3,000, and all of a sudden we owe double than what our initial payment was.
So from 2002 to 2007, approximately 5 years, people were so happy to, I've got this beautiful, did you say 6-figure home? I mean, really, really nice homes. So for those 5 years, this is where the deception, or this is when the deception was taking place, Liz?
Well, that's when they laid the groundwork.
I see.
That's when they laid the groundwork.
And who is this they we're talking about, and what is the groundwork that was
I'm
laid?
so glad you asked that question. Who's this they? Kelly will tell you who this they was.
Yeah, so they, to me, for the most part, were major banks that you've heard of, and I will name them now: Wells Fargo, Bank of America at the time. There were some other banks, like Citibank. Then there were major home lenders such as Countrywide and IndyMac Bank. But they sounded like names you could trust.
Right.
But what we didn't know, what differed from the loans of the 80s and 90s and previous, is you weren't exactly dealing with the bank. It wasn't Bank of America. It was Bank of America Home Loans. That's a spinoff. And what they did was they sold your loan to a hedge fund on the stock market. And so you think, but Bank of America is still the loan servicer. So you think, I got a loan with Bank of America, I'm dealing with Bank of America, I can go in the branch and pay Bank of America, I have a loan with Bank of America. No, they did what's called originate the loan, but then it was sold off to a hedge fund.
Is that legal? Okay, I'm with Bank of America and I'm in my home, my fireplace and all that, and then all of a sudden, the person I signed my papers with, you're saying they sold the loan the deal to somebody else without me knowing it?
That is correct. And it is legal, it might not be ethical, but it's legal. And there was always fine print that said we reserve the right to sell your loan. You may receive a new servicer, you'll get notice. It is typical in the mortgage industry for loans to be sold, but to whom? This time in 2002 to 2007, the fact that they were sold to hedge funds who aren't in your neighborhood, they don't care about you, and as we will see, as we discuss later, they lied to you, that's where the crisis came in.
I see. What exactly is a hedge fund?
A hedge fund is an investment group, usually it's on Wall Street, and they pool money together to invest for return. And so these loans were pooled together and strictly sold for a return on the dollar to pension funds, to investment bankers, internationally. So your loan could be in a pool of 20 to 30 other loans, and based on credit score and income, they were given a rating, and then the Bank of America would sell the loan to different entities. There were brokers, there's plenty of brokers in between, and then from there, it was an investment product.
About approximately how many people were victimized by this practice?
Millions.
Well, I mean in PG County?
Oh, well, in Prince George's County, we've lost over 65,000 homes already to the state
To that practice.
To this whole practice, yeah.
Well,
65,000
Well, I'll put it in
homes.
perspective. So as we approach 1 million residents, there's about 315,000 households. So out of the 315,000 households, there's been 65,000 foreclosures, which is reported by Prince George's County on their website. However, that's just foreclosures in the court. There were also a lot of transactions that took place outside of the court, where people signed their house back to the bank. So that's not gonna show up in the court records. Short sales, where people sold their house through a realtor for less than what was owed, that's not gonna show up in the foreclosure docket. So my estimate is, I think it's really closer to 90,000 people who lost their home. And I wanna make this clear too. These weren't people just buying their dream home. These were also people who've owned their homes for 20, 30 years, and they were targeted to say, hey, you should refinance. We can give you a lower interest rate. Or you could cash out and make the repairs you need, or buy a car, or take a trip. And here's someone with equity, maybe no mortgage at all, or a great stable mortgage. But once they refinanced, they got into a tricky loan and it caught up in the reverse redlining.
Wow. I mean, can you believe it? And I know it's a lot of people out there watching now that said not only can they believe it, but it happened to them. And we're talking about the horror of the problem, but we have some great solutions with strategic housing solutions, because there are people in the world that take notice, and they say, wait a minute, this is not right. And not only do they say it's not right, they do something about it. That's our guest here today. So if you have fell into what they are describing, and it brings back so many sad memories when you're talking about losing your home. People have children, people have other bills, and then we're hearing how it started out. I mean, how, I guess you come home one day and, oh, I have some mail, and what, they receive letters or something to indicate that your mortgage, you said the mortgage creeped, right? Did it creep? Did anybody's mortgage not creep and go from, let's say, $2,000 a month to $3,000 a month?
Oh,
So,
no question, instantly.
Instantly.
And so a lot of times people had loans that were fixed for 1 year, 2 years, 3, even 5. And when that period was over, it's a guessing game. I don't know what my payment's gonna be. And then you get a notice. So now most homeowners, when this is your primary residence, they were responsible. They called the bank and said, I can't afford this payment. I need help. And that's where the tricks began. And so people thought they were dealing with their neighborhood Bank of America and Wells Fargo, but they were not. They were dealing with a hedge fund. So for me as an attorney, it took a very long time for me to even have a clue as to what was going on. Because when I would help people, I said, well, we'll call Bank of America and see what they can
You would
do.
start from there. Let's
Right.
call the bank.
Yes, and
Well,
let's see
and-
what they can do. In the 80s and 90s, they helped people out. So let's give them a call. But what they would tell me is, well, we need to talk to our investor.
And so that would throw you off and the
Exactly.
homeowner off, like,
Exactly.
okay. How long did this confusion take place, Liz?
This confusion remains.
Well, I mean, when she was, like where we are in the story, let's say the fixed loan now has been up and you get this letter, and now the homeowner is like, they come to you before y'all found out about the hedge funds. Y'all were like, what's going on? How long did what's going on take place?
It took a while because they have so many tricks, Nia.
Like 3 years, 5 years?
Well, it took us, actually, I started working at the NAACP in 10 and started looking at that in
2010.
2010.
And this is 2020.
Exactly.
So you have been unraveling and challenging and finding out for 10 long years. That's the type of dedication we're talking about.
Well, it's for me, it was like, how can you do this? How can you come into my neighborhood and treat me like this and think that I'm a dumb, ignorant people, and hey, don't even worry about it. Like they say, put something in the book if you don't want us to know about it.
Mhm.
Put it in the book.
Mhm.
And it's like, okay, but they taught me to read, and so
You were
therefore,
determined.
so therefore I was just determined to try to get to the bottom of it.
Mhm.
And thank goodness, I met Kelly really in a very strange way. We have another person who worked with us who's been on the show before,
Mhm.
Beth Jacobson, who used to work for Wells Fargo
Mm.
as a loan officer.
She worked in the bank.
She worked in the
Mhm.
bank, and thank God Beth came to work with us as well.
Oh, that's
so
good.
that it was a great team.
Mm-hmm.
We had this wonderful attorney. Beth is a paralegal who's been. So the universe, God, Allah, said, okay, put you guys together.
Mhm.
And we've worked tirelessly doing this. Just the three of us.
Yeah, when you say you worked, this is a volunteer work. It's not a job. It's a passion. It's a compassion. It's just the feeling of wanting to correct a wrong that could have been done to you. It's empathy for others that it's been done to, or am I talking to two victims?
You are. I was about to
Whoa,
say.
okay.
That's the reason why we're even more passionate about it.
So
is because
both
of what
of you?
happened to us.
Yes.
So both of you have
We were
received
victimized.
this horrible treatment, and you still, it takes nothing from you, because you could have got your project fixed and your personal
And went on
finance
about our
and went on about your business like average people do. But spirit-born people that have a mission, that you didn't even know you had the mission. Hey, I just woke up one day, but that fire got turned on, and from there you're here with strategic housing solution.
We have seen some stories that would break your heart.
Well, share some of those stories.
One in particular that I like to talk about is a woman who lived, I think it was Dorchester County, who lost 20 acres of land. On that land was 2 tobacco barns, 2 houses, and a cell phone tower. And her father apparently signed a reverse mortgage, and according to Beth, they were not even permitted to even give them a reverse mortgage because it's a cell phone tower.
Mhm.
But in any event, she lost those 20 acres, and 2 weeks before Christmas, they evicted her from her house, and she had nowhere to go, and she slept in her car in her own driveway.
Wow.
But
And that's a heartbreaker.
Right.
What was her age? Was
She's
she a
probably in her
senior?
50s, 60s,
Yeah,
late
no,
60s.
But her
Senior.
dad had Alzheimer's when he signed the documents,
Oh,
and
I
so
see.
that would invalidate the transaction
Right.
anyway.
Right.
But the problem so not only have we had to deal with the banks, we had to deal with the courts. And
Mhm.
so you could have a valid defense. She's waving her hand and said, wait a minute, I didn't know my dad signed this. He's had Alzheimer's for the last 10 years of his life. How could he even enter into a contract?
Mhm.
But the courts have been what we call robo-denying the citizens' attempts to defend the foreclosure.
So you go to courts to get justice, but you got robo-denying. From the courts. Is that where your main fight is? Is your main fight with the courts, the banks? And I'm sure both, but where is the main struggle?
Well,
I would think the courts.
Well, the main remedy is in the courts.
Oh, the remedy, I like that.
The main remedy is in the courts.
Mm-hmm.
The fight comes from these bottom feeders that are taking people's homes. And then, of course, we have to go into the courts. And, of course, I don't want to get into Kelly's lane and talk about the courts. But we have seen some things, as I said before, that would really break your heart. You know, people being evicted from their homes and are, you know, like are trying to make what they call, trying to make a deal with the lender. And that process was called dual tracking, I think.
Yes.
Where people were trying to make a loan, or trying to get a modification. And then lo and behold, here we are down the road here, we're getting modifications that are predatory.
Meaning,
a lot of people are, well, one case in particular I'll share with you. This woman lives in a house that may be worth maybe $250. I'll give her that. Let's say $300.
okay.
And she had been in the house for 10 years, paying for it. Got a modification that started her back at zero.
Mm-hmm.
She would pay for the house for 20 years, $1,000 and some dollars to pay her payment. And then in 2036, she's got a $180,000 balloon payment.
What does that mean, balloon payment?
A balloon payment is a
Heard it.
payment, let Kelly tell you. She knows all about balloon payments.
I've heard it.
So usually, they have what's called amortization, and so with a 30-year loan,
Mhm.
usually there's a 30-year amortization, meaning at the 30th year, the house is paid in full. But when there's a balloon payment, you could still have a 30-year amortization, meaning you'll make payments as if you were gonna pay it off in 30 years, but the loan stops early. So the loan could stop after 15 years,
Mhm.
and you'll owe the balance. And it'd be up to you to pay it off in full or refinance. You don't have the full 30 years to pay it off.
Wow.
And
Why
now,
would people enter into a deal like that unless they've been slick talked and here, look this way?
It's
and
under
with-
duress.
Oh, I see.
That's
Yeah.
it's under
People are
duress.
desperate.
If
Yeah, that
you
makes
if
a
you
lot
want to
of sense.
stay,
Yeah.
and Liz just touched on another issue that we were dealing with since 2008, when people wanted help and we would call the bank, say, oh, you're still current on your payments, so we can't help you. And so a lot of the banks led our residents into foreclosure because they said you have to miss 3 payments to show that you have a hardship
Uh-huh.
before we will work out a deal to help you.
And then
And-
when you miss those 3 payments, they can legally take your home.
That is correct, and that's what they were doing, and so they said, oh, send in, so
By
here's the thing,
thousands.
when you're by yourself,
Wow.
you don't recognize that when the bank is telling you, or the servicing company is telling you, oh, I lost this document, I lost that document, send in this, send in that, you think that you're still working with them. We have people on the inside that said they lost documents on purpose. They would actually get bonuses. Now, this is what a former employee told
This
me.
is alleged information.
Right, I can't verify, but this is what a former employee told me.
Mhm.
She would get a bonus for every person that she could say they lost their paperwork and then it ended up in foreclosure.
Oh, wow.
So with the hedge funds, that machine in New York on Wall Street, the goal was to capture as many houses as possible. And with Prince George's County being a minority county, this was prime. This was a prime location.
Like
to-
targeted, black and brown
Oh,
residents.
Yes.
absolutely.
Like it was targeted.
Yes.
We're here at E-Life Media Studios, 9185 9185 Central Avenue in Capitol Heights, Maryland. We're gonna go to a short commercial break in just a few moments. Our wonderful guests are Miss Liz Johnson. And Miss Liz Johnson is the housing chairperson for Prince George's County, Maryland, NAACP, and the legal counsel for Strategic Housing Solutions. Here also is Miss Kelly Baker. And when we come back, we're going to talk a little bit more about those solutions. We're also going to hear a little bit more about the heartbreaks so that people know we do empathize with them, and we are certainly needing to learn more of how we can help, what we can do, and what legal ramifications can be done. It may not be tomorrow, but if we keep pushing like these two ladies, it's on its way. I'm Sister Nia2x, and I want to thank you for being here. The name of our show is Black People Are on the Rise. So keep it right here. Let's say thank you to a few of our sponsors. We want to say thank you to the tax lady. The tax lady indeed. It's tax season again, is that right? Usually when tax time comes around, it can be a bit stressful. But now the tax lady has taken care of that issue for everyone. She has so many repeat customers. They love her affordable, reasonable rates. She is a certified, registered tax preparer with over 30 years experience. Don't delay. Call the tax lady today. You'll be glad you did. Call 301-341-9132. She takes the worry and dread away with providing professional services to you. Call 301-341-9132, the tax lady. And of course, we want to say thank you to the Washington Informer newspaper. Your link to the black community, the Washington Informer newspaper, is the metropolitan area here in D.C., Maryland, and Virginia. They are an award-winning weekly publication found throughout D.C., MD, and VA. It's news you can use with a balanced and thorough approach in providing and keeping the area well informed. Call Ron Burke to advertise in the Washington Informer newspaper. They have over 35,000 readers. Pick up your free publication or call and find out where the newspaper is. Call 202-562-4100. The Washington Informer newspaper. Okay, we're back talking about serious subjects. They're very sensitive subjects for those that are around the country. We know Prince George's County, Maryland, was not the only area hit with these predatory loans and these back deals and just unheard of conversations when it comes to purchasing a home and owning the home. Our guest, Liz Johnson, along with Kelly Baker, are going to come back because as bad as it sounds, as horrible as it sounds, black people are on the rise. And it's real. We just don't get the information enough. Black people are on the rise. So, you know what I always say? Don't take my word. We have a news correspondent here, and he's going to teach us and explain to us so that we can remember and tell our family and friends that black people are on the rise. And I'm talking about that news correspondent, Carlton Thompson. How are you, Mr. Thompson?
Good evening, Miss Nia. I'm doing great. And good evening to everybody watching. Today, in my segment of Black People Are on the Rise, I'll be sharing with you some of the accomplishments of black people in 2019. Lewis Hamilton is a British car racer in Formula One for Mercedes-AMG Petronas Motorsport. He is a 6-time Formula One world champion and is highly regarded as one of the greatest drivers in the history of the sport. He is also named one of the most successful drivers in the history with his 6 world championship titles. He has a record of 84 race victories and 151 podium finishes. On to our next story. The billionaire. Robert Smith is a businessman, philanthropist, chemical engineer, and investment banker. He is the founder, chairman, and CEO of private equity firm Vista Equity Partners. Back in 2019, Robert Smith paid off all the student loan debt for over 400 graduates in Morehouse College located in Atlanta, Georgia. The total student loan debt came to $34 million. Robert Smith is regarded as one of the richest black people in the world. On to our final story. The late phenomenal U.S. Representative Congresswoman Shirley Chisholm continues to be the first. In 1968, she was the first black woman to serve in Congress in New York City. Then, in 1972, she ran for president of the United States of America, becoming the first black woman running for the nomination from both parties, and the first woman to seek Democratic nomination. Now scheduled for 2021, Congresswoman Shirley Chisholm will be the first female historical figure to have a public monument dedicated to her in Brooklyn, New York in Prospect Park. Shirley Chisholm served 7 terms in Congress from 1969 to 1983. That is all for my segment of Black People Are on the Rise. My name is Carlton Thompson, and back to you, Miss Nia.
All right, Carlton Thompson, indeed. We have so much to be proud. We are steadily accomplishing as a people, and we need to be reminded, and you're going to be reminded on this program. Black people are on the rise. Go ahead, Shirley Chisholm, and the other two, Lamar, what's his name, please? Lewis Hamilton. He's the car racer. Most people didn't know he was over in Britain, I believe you said. And if you didn't look him up and find this information out, most of us would not know Mr. Hamilton and being the top race driver in the world. And then you talked about Robert Smith. And most of us had heard about Robert Smith, but we haven't heard about it enough. Anytime you donate $34 million to pay off student loan debts is worthy of being repeated again and again. So thank you, Carlton Thompson, for your news and information, and we look forward to you our next program with Black People Are on the Rise. We're back with our guest in the studio, and again we have Miss Liz Johnson and we have Kelly Baker. And these two soldiers are fighting from the heart, and they're also fighting from an experience, as they shared, that happened to them with their homes, neighbors, people they have met, that one day you have a roof over your head, and the very next day you are being asked to leave your home. You know, a house is a house, but a home is something that, you're attached to. This is my castle, this is my palace, this is where I live, this is property I want to inherit or have my children or someone in my family. It's my home. I'm relaxed, I'm not looking for any problems, I'm paying my mortgage on time, I'm doing the best job that I can, and yet many people were set out on the front. Many people, as you're explaining, the lady had to sleep in her car, and she was about 50, 60 years old. The mental anguish and the mental challenges that you were hearing and you're still hearing. How are those people coping? I know many people are coping with the church or their religious belief. How are people coping? Because it takes extra strong people to go through something like this, knowing that you cheated. There's something wrong with these deals. And then we want to get to find out if people are going to jail. Liz, how are they coping?
That's a very, very interesting question once again, Nia. Because we have a website, and one of the tabs on our website is Where Are They Now? Because I saw a family with a 3-month-old baby living in their car. I mentioned to you about the woman whose house was we have all kinds of stories. We have stories of people being put out by the sheriff, and they are like, wait a minute, I paid my note. This and that, this is happening and that's happening. They were put out anyway. It's really been an onslaught, a regular onslaught of aggression against homeowners of color here in this county. And what breaks my heart is that people think that it's their fault. They don't realize that they have been victimized and they didn't stand a chance against the Wall Street machine. So where they are now, we'd like to know. We'd like to make that part of our story. As a matter of fact, Howard University is going to do a documentary, and we're going to want to reach out to some of the people saying, let us know where you are now, because we would like to make that part of the documentary.
Now,
Because-
when people reach out to Strategic Housing Solutions, like somebody hears about you and they give you a call or email or a visit, what should they expect?
I'm gonna let Kelly answer that one, because they're the ones, she's the one that's gonna be able to, give them some relief.
Right.
Okay.
So our website, which is Strategic Housing Solutions, INC.org. What you'll see there, you'll see our mission. We also have join our mailing list. And so when we need things like we're working on the documentary, does anyone know, or anyone willing to tell their story, we can keep in touch. Also, if we are able to craft any type of class action lawsuit, we really want to keep in touch with people, because we are working on something that if someone was harmed since 2007, that possibly as a county we could come together to seek justice, but baby steps, it's a work in progress.
Yes.
What you also see is a link to our questionnaire. So that is for people who are currently going through the foreclosure process now, whether that is they know that they are going to miss a payment, or they've already received documents from the court. They answer a quick questionnaire, takes about 5 minutes, and then one of our paralegals reaches out for details. And then we, from there, our services, we do have to charge for our services. So at this, we are a nonprofit.
It's a lot of research.
Right. We are a nonprofit, but we're not funded at this time, so everyone is paying for legal services. But it's a different type of service than you get from when you get a foreclosure package. The state of Maryland has something called Maryland Hope, and you have a list of nonprofits, and our point of view, they aren't very helpful. They never give you the option of, hey, would you like to seek legal counsel to see if you have a valid defense to this foreclosure? It's always, oh, you're behind, work something out with them, good luck. If not, be prepared to walk away from your home. We are doing something different. We are exhausting all legal remedies possible to help people stay in their homes and be righted of the wrong.
Well, the 10 years since 2010, after 2002, 2007, in 2010, you were saying that something had turned around in 2010. What happened in 2010 with Strategic Housing Solutions?
No, we didn't start Strategic Housing Solutions until about 3 years ago. But in 2010 is when we started the investigation, like what happened.
Oh.
But you have to know that they've got a multitude of tricks in Wall Street. We have companies that start out as one thing, and then the state of Maryland has sued them and they become something else. Then they say they're gonna put things in a trust, and you're constantly trying to find out where the head of the monster is. And then, as Kelly said earlier, when your notice being sold to this company and that company, you're forever, it's a chase. You're forever chasing to see where is the remedy. How can we help people? And then in the courts.
Mm-hmm.
In the
that's
courts,
a whole different
it's
ball
a whole different thing with the
We're at
courts.
the end of the show. Oh, go ahead, though.
Okay.
Like you said, in the courts, it's
a whole
really a
different show.
battle.
But I want to tell people once again about Strategic Housing Solutions.
Sure.
And if they want to have our help, to go online to Strategic Housing Solutions with an S, INC.org.
Mm-hmm.
And if you want to call and leave a message, you can reach us at, let me see what's on this card,
Right here, 301.
301-291-5480, and leave a message.
And we should call. You really should call. Don't give up. Don't give up on yourself. Call, because you have two fighters that have taken their time. I mean, patience is a virtue. To go 10 years, and I guess you've accumulated a lot of information that can help you. Have you been able to help anyone at this point? You only been in business 3 years with Strategic Housing Solutions, but have you been able to get clients that say, hey, I'm sticking with you?
Oh, definitely.
Good.
And we've been able to help quite a few households be able
Good.
to stay in their home. And we have some
Good.
pending appeals that, appeals take a couple years, but the
Mhm.
people are in their homes while we're pending appeal, and we love to see what the Court of Special Appeals decide.
What do you say to people that are not in PG County, that are across the county, that are in America? Is it any type of help or solutions or assistance you can do for other people that have been in the same position? Can they contact you, at least get information?
Definitely, and
But laws are different in different
We're
cities.
we're definitely expanding through the state of Maryland, and there's a lot we can still do to look over paperwork, and then we find a local attorney in your area that we can mentor and train, because a lot of attorneys aren't trained in this field. They just don't have the knowledge and the experience, and so we are willing, our legal team is willing to mentor and train a local attorney to help. But we can get started by at least looking at the paperwork. That's in the state of Maryland. But our paralegal, Beth, she does work nationwide. And
Oh, that's good.
And so, we can still look at certain paperwork and at least identify an issue. And then we leave it to your local attorney to go from there to defend.
But it'll be an attorney that's been trained by us.
Oh, I see.
Because so many attorneys have
What
been.
about judges? Do they need training?
We'd love to train the judges because
Listen to my engineer now.
we'd
You
love,
let me know. Okay, we have 1 minute.
okay, we'd love to be able to train judges. As a matter of fact, we've had some good feedback from the court,
That's good.
you know, where they're willing to change some of their procedures because we
In
found
the court.
in the court. So that we found, you know, we had to meet with them.
Are judges humble? When they find out they really don't know, are they humble to listen and learn more, to help make a balance in the justice for the people that you're representing?
We'd like to think so. As I said before, we've had some positive feedback.
Good.
So now we're getting ready to implement those changes and see whether or not it's all gonna work, but we're hopeful.
All
We're
right,
hopeful.
we're here at eLife Media Studios. We're so glad to be here. We want to say thank you to you for viewing, but it's not enough. Make that call. Make that call. Make that email at this point. Write the email. Reach out, and there is a telephone number. One more time, ladies. Telephone number.
301-291-5480.
This is the good fight. And we could complain about it. We could complain and leave it there. No. Be involved, get up, stand up, and let's make the difference, because good will always outweigh wrong. And what's been done around the country is just unthinkable. This is Black People Are on the Rise. I'm your humble host, Nia2x, here on Nia2x TV. I want to say thank you to Carlton Thompson for giving us the positive news. Thank you to our engineer today, Mr. Jackson. Indeed, he's holding it down. And thank you to our guests, Liz Johnson and Kelly Brown.
Thank you, Nia.
All right, so y'all have to come back. We do a part 2, and let's keep that good fight moving. Okay, Harriet Tubman, Rosa Parks, let's keep it moving. Thank you to
Thank
everyone,
you.
and peace.